Good morning, I'm Itza Romero.
And I'm Albert Martinez.
And you're watching UCLA Channel 1919 News.
Today we're going to bring attention about an international campaign that works on bringing awareness about language and its effects on cognition.
Many languages around the world gender their objects, and that can affect how we perceive those objects in the natural world.
Unlike English, languages like Spanish and French set morphological rules on inanimate objects where a definite article defines a noun as masculine or feminine.
Here, our newscaster Brad goes into the streets to interview four.
Thank you, Itzel. So here I am on the streets, and I am trying to find people who are bilingual with English and a gendered language. Since we are in New York, that wouldn't be a hard task. So I've met up with Rosa, who speaks Spanish, which is a gendered language. Now tell me, how would you describe the word key in Spanish?
Well, I'd say golden, intricate, little, lovely, and maybe tiny.
And how would you describe bridge?
Big, dangerous, strong, sturdy, and towering.
Here is our next interviewee. He speaks German, which is also a gendered language. Now tell me, how would you describe key in German?
Hard, heavy, jagged, metal, and maybe useful.
And how would you describe bridge?
Beautiful, elegant, fragile, pretty, and I think they're pretty slender.
Did you know that both German and Spanish give inanimate objects a gender? You both applied gender to the objects I was presenting.
What?
What?
Yes, if you notice the way you described the words, it was based on how you perceived the word as masculine or feminine. In Spanish, key is morphologically approached in a feminine way, and in German, it is approached masculine.
I had no idea.
I never knew my language had anything to do with how I thought.
Well, now you know. Thanks for spending this time with us and participating in this brief experiment. We're going to hand it back to the office for some further insight on what just happened. Back to you, Itzel.
Welcome back. This experiment Brad just demonstrated for us out in the streets is related to linguistic relativity theory, also known as the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. These titles are given to the fact that the structure of a specific language can determine or greatly influence the way people think and behave based on the culture in which it is spoken. This is really interesting because that means we may have limits to understand each other because of our language origins differ. Well, we are no experts on this, so we are actually going to connect with two guests from their workplace that can explain, I'm sure better, how this happens. Let's connect with our first guest, Dakota, a linguist from the University of Chicago.
Good morning. So the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis is based on different language trends in different cultures. Like an experiment just done in New York, there have been many others with multitudes of different languages that get to the same conclusion. People tend to categorize, narrate, respond, describe, or behave towards something due to the nature of the languages they are knowledgeable about. This happens because many languages are gendered, so the spoken, written, and verbal forms of it require the individual from that culture to be mindful of the correct gender term for what they are describing. However, don't mistake language to be the only factor that influences thought.
Thank you for your input, Dakota. So now that we know the main linguistic distinction of why our participants in New York describe the same object differently, we also want to know a little bit about how and what our minds are thinking so that we can get to the bottom of this weird situation we all just viewed in New York. To explain this aspect of our situation, we are connecting with Michael, a cognitive scientist from UCLA.
Hello, good morning. I'm here at my laboratory just discussing with staff about this scenario. We all saw that the language not only affects our perception on inanimate objects, but it also has an effect on our own cognition, even when we're not aware of it. This is taking place inside of our brain. When we talk, we don't realize that our native language can shape the way we learn, understand, perceive, or behave, even if we are communicating in a language that might be common between two people. And this is why many people are led to believe that our communication and understanding across languages might be limited, because we all describe and perceive information differently, especially when dealing with gender terms. There might be a lack of unity in the way thoughts must be organized in order to understand a specific scenario or concept. This is why translating books and dialogue between languages is not an easy automatic task for us to process, because there are so many. Thank you, Michael. Your explanation helped clear why we may not notice what our minds are processing all the time.
Created using Powtoon.